Hello, friends! Welcome to Coding Garden with CJ. Welcome to Trello Clone Part 4. It's gonna be fun. There's already lots of people in the chat. Um, Let me attempt to say hello to everyone. Hello, Andreas. Hello, Ali, Kaizen, Professor Elements, Rohit, Ran, Flamingo. Welcome to the stream. It's going to be a fun time. You may have noticed I'm a little bit late, and I probably sound like I was asleep because I was. But yes, this is part 4. I guess I'll show real quick. If you look on my channel and you look at the playlists, there is a playlist specifically for Trello Clone. And we've been building this thing out. We have a list of features that I've been working on. But before we get any further, before we add any more features to the app, I want to clean things up. So a lot of the components in this app are gigantic. A lot of them have their own state instead of using something like Vuex. So today, for the next hour and a half or so, I'm going to be cleaning things up, breaking things out into components, moving things into the Vuex store, and then after we're done with that, I'll work on styling just a little bit. So to review kind of the features of the app, we are making a clone of Trello. So Trello is a project management tool that allows you to have different columns. Each column can have cards inside of it, and these cards are typically like dev tasks or like user stories. And you can move these cards between the different columns. This specifically is a Trello board that I use to manage all of the videos that I'm working on. And we're making a clone of that. So let's see the demo. We're going to first sign up. So username. Let's say username is part 4. Ruiz, hello, welcome to the stream. And Briggs, hello, welcome. Username, part 4. Display name, part_4. Password, that. Image URL. Let's grab the Coding Garden logo. This one. Sign up. Okay, so after you've signed up, you can now log in. So my username is part 4. And that's my password. And I can click login. Now that I've logged in, I get my dashboard where I can create boards. So I'll create a board. My fun project. We can throw a background in here. Let's find one on r/earthporn. They have really cool like nature pics. What about this one in Australia? Beautiful. Let's copy this image address. We're going to make that the background and create. And so now we have the board and we can go into it. And then on a specific board, we can create lists. So I'll create a list for to do. And you'll notice on the right-hand side, there's also a log of all the activities that happen. We'll do to do, doing, and done. And to do will be break components up into smaller components. Create the card. Add some styles so it's not just white everywhere. You'll notice right now it's pretty bland. Everything is just a simple white color. What else? Move component state into the Vuex store. So we can create these cards and then we can move them into different columns. So for instance, we can move this move component state into the Vuex store into doing. Great. And notice there's an activity log on the right hand side. We got to work on these styles. It's like cutting some stuff off. But as you move different cards, those are logged. And the interesting thing about this is because we are using feathers as our backend, if someone else, we haven't added this feature yet. I don't know if we'll get to it tonight, but if someone else is viewing the exact same board, whenever they do something, it is reflected on whoever has the same page open. And this is due to feathers.js as our backend because it is using socket IO to allow for real-time communication between anyone that has the same page open. Great, 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 great. R is asking, am I planning to do any tutorials on React? Yes, upcoming. There's a lot of requests for things on React. They're definitely in the pipeline. I do have that Trello board that I showed of different topics that I'm thinking about, and I will definitely incorporate React into the mix. It's not my favorite, but I know that a lot of people use it, so cool. That's pretty much the app, and we're building the front end and the back end. Our back end is built with Feathers.js. Feathers.js. So Feathers.js is a framework that is essentially built on top of Express that allows an API to have real-time communication. They support all sorts of different stores in terms of databases. They support anything that's SQL. They support Mongo, various things, and you can create APIs very simply with it. So this is our back end, and then our front end is made with Vue.js. We're using Vuex for our store, and Feathers Vuex, which is a client-side library that syncs up our client-side store with our backend pretty seamlessly, which is pretty awesome. Cool. Phone is vibrating. Cool, cool, cool. All right. I think I'm ready. And I actually didn't make a list of to-dos of things that I wanted to do tonight. I did mention that we're going to be refactoring things and like moving things into the store. We can see in our list of to-dos, one thing we want to do is add like editing of cards and lists, adding descriptions, adding members so you can actually collaborate on a board. We're doing none of that tonight. We are going to refactor. So I think the first thing that I want to do is let's refactor. Okay, so there's two things that I want to do. Refactor into smaller components and move data that's in a component into the Vuex store. I'm thinking maybe I want to move things into the Vuex store first, because when we start refactoring into components, it'll make things a little bit easier and we won't have to change it later. Let's do that. Let us do that. Okay, so we're going to move component state into the Vuex store. And then also we will refactor large components into many smaller components. And you'll see in the source code where this is actually happening. And I may have forgotten to mention it, but all of this code is available on GitHub, and I'll be pushing up all the code that I do today to there as well. Okay, refactor large components into smaller components, make it look prettier. So we'll work on the styles. That's the plan for tonight. Let's do it. So let's start at kind of like our entry point. So app.view, this is where it all happens. And you know what? Maybe we can do these things at the same time. Maybe we'll refactor into components and move it into the store. Let's just hang out. We're going to hang out. We're going to write some Vue.js code. It's going to be fun. So looking at this app.view, nothing in here I think needs to be moved into the Vuex store. We do have some data here. We're saying fixed is false. And I believe this has something to do. Are we even using it? It has to do with the footer. Because this is just so particular to this specific component, we're not going to move that into the Vuex store. However, one thing I would like to break out into a separate component would be maybe this toolbar here. So let's do that. So in our source directory, let's create a new folder called components. And let's create a new file. We'll call this app-navbar. We'll camel case it. app-navbar.view. Rajan, hope I'm saying your name right. Thank you very much. Okay, so we want a component, And basically what I want to do is I want to take, and really we're gonna have to move our state out of here, but I want to take everything here, all of this, I'm gonna move into a separate component. So I just cut that out. That's gonna go in the template there. And that's pretty much it. So that way, right here, I should be able to do app-navbar, like that. And it should just work. That's my break timer. Let's take a quick stretch. I'll let you know this is not gonna work. We're gonna have to fix this, but let's figure out what we have to fix to be able to get this working. Okay, so if we go back to the browser, the navbar is gone, but now the first error we get, unknown custom element app navbar. So when you're creating custom components in Vue, you have to import them manually and register them where you want to use them. Now you can register them globally, but I'm going to register them, or this one, right here inside of app.vue. So first thing we'll do is import it in. So I'll say import app navbar from components / app navbar, like that. And then we need to tell this component about that component. So we can say components is an object, and then we'll just throw that in there. And you may have seen component registration before where you say something like app-navbar is that. But by default, if you import a component that is camel cased like this, you can actually use it with dash case. So that should be all we need to do to bring it in. But now we're getting more errors because all of this state down here that we are grabbing from the store is no longer available inside of this component. Now, I could pass things down, or I could move all of this state into this component. One thing you typically see is like these top level components and views are connected to the Vuex store, and then these components are just dumb and just get their data from props. Let's see what I would need to pass down. We need user, and we need the method logout. Let's just pass it down as props. So here's what I want to be able to do. I want to say, okay, Mr. AppNavBar, your user is going to be this user, and your logout is going to be this logout that I passed down to you. Great, but now I need to say in this component that it has props. So we're going to add a nice little script tag. We're going to say props. We'll say user, and we'll say logout. So now this component is accepting those two things. So I think that should do it. Let's see. There we go. Beautiful. We made a component. Arif, hello. Welcome to the stream. Okay, so simple enough, and that's pretty much a lot of what we're going to be doing tonight, and like to actually clean things up. And I think I like this. So the main thing about creating components that like accept their data as props is now this thing can be reused anywhere, and it doesn't necessarily have to know about like map state or map actions. It just gets its props, these two things, and the parent has to know how to get those things and can just pass them down. So I think that's good enough for me. Here's an interesting thing though. This part right here, I kind of want to put that in a component because this has a user's display name and their avatar. And yeah, we could create like a nice little component called like avatar. Why not? Let's do it. Believe. Yeah, that right there. I'm going to pull that out, and I want to be able to say, app-avatar. And one thing is I'm prefixing my components with the word app just so that they don't conflict with potentially other components that I'm bringing in from like Vuetify or something like that. You'll notice that all of the Vuetify components are prefixed with a V-dash. Cool. So I have app avatar. Let's create a new file called app avatar. It will have a template with that in it. Just like that. And the one thing that this component needs is the user. So we'll add a script tag in here. And we'll say props user. Now the interesting thing about this is notice how I was doing like user.user. Let's just make this say user. And the user that I pass down will be user.user. Bear with me. So right here, this thing needs a user. And I'm going to pass down user.user. And we'll also need to bring in this component into this component. So we'll say import app avatar from @/components/app avatar. And then we'll throw this in components. And actually, this might be a component that I register globally, mainly because I might actually need to use, like once we start getting more users in the app, I may use this in multiple places. For now, I'm going to leave it here, but this seems like something I might register globally. And it still works. Beautiful. Okay, so that's there. We could even go even further. We could say like logged out buttons and like logged in buttons. I'm not going to do that. We'll leave that the way it is. Let's go one level deeper. So if we look at our router, we have our home page, which I think, let's look at home.view. Yeah, it's super simple. It just says loading. And then our router takes care of if they are already logged in, redirect to the boards page. If they're not, redirect to the login page. So let's take a look at the login page, see if there's anything in here we can refactor. Okay. This component is pretty big, but it is a form. I mean, technically, I could refactor this right here to be like log in form and pull those things out. Do I want to, though? I don't know. Oh, yeah, and Ollie said there is a user payload, so I wouldn't have to do that whole, like, if you saw the last episode, actually, the previous two episodes, I just did tons of debugging when it came down to auth. But Ollie is saying there's something I can do to get the current user, I believe, so I wouldn't have had to do the custom, what was it called? If we look at our backend code, there's a verifier, and I created this custom local verifier that like copied in some code, but like changed one specific thing. Okay, I'll take a look at that soon. Okay, but yeah, if we're looking at the login page, I could bring this out into a separate component. Will I? I don't know. If we look at this component, oh, here's one thing I want to do. Not empty rules, I know, is used in tons of different places throughout my app. So I'm going to create like a validator module with not empty rules inside of it, so that later on when we're refactoring other components, I can bring those in there. So let's do that. Okay. In the source directory, I'm just going to create a new file. Let's call this validators.js. And we'll say export default object. It's going to export an object. Actually, we may not do that. Let's see, though. We want basically not empty rules is one thing that we're going to export from this function. So in here, I don't want to export default. I want to say export not empty rules equals that value. preferred default export. This should be okay because later on we might actually add some other exports in here. But basically, this one file has an export called not empty rules that is an array of rules. And so now inside of here, I should be able to just say not empty rules is there, but I'm actually going to import this in from the validator. So we'll say import not empty rules from @validators. Okay. If we log out, on the login page, we still have our cannot be empty. So now these not empty rules are defined elsewhere, and we can actually bring them into other components if we want to. Yeah, easy enough. We could bring this state into the Vuex store. One thing is though, I actually, especially for forms, I like them to just use regular component state, because that way we don't have all these different actions firing off or just updating things that are specific to the form. So I think I'm going to leave that there. But I believe we can pull this into the Vuex store, because this has some pretty custom logic. So we can create an action in the store and just bring that action in to do this logic here. Sai, hello, welcome to the stream. So let's do that. One thing about our Vuex store, so I haven't showed this yet, is it's using lots of service plugins from Feathers Vuex. So we're bringing in Feathers Client and Feathers Vuex, and then we have plugins which exactly match up with our backend service for that specific service. So we have the user service. This creates basically a Vuex submodule that syncs in real time with that backend service. We have a service for boards, one for lists, one for cards, one for activities, one for auth. And we pretty much now want to start to create our own custom services, custom submodules to have like specific actions inside of them. So let's do this. I believe everything's mostly working right now. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. In the source directory, I'm going to create, not a file, I'm going to create a folder called store, like that. And then I'm going to move store into that folder and rename it index.js. So now anywhere where I was requiring in store, it should still make sense. Like, that's broken. Is it still broken? Okay, so in main.js, I need to update this because notice this is, actually that should still work. Import store from the store directory. There's an index file. It's exporting that. Let's kill our Vue app. That's our backend. Let's kill our front end. Restart it. I may have to be specific and say, bring in a module was not found. Did I name it the wrong thing? Store/index.js. Oh, we'll have to update this. This needs to grab Feathers Client from one directory up. That's great. There we go. And now we have lots of linting errors, but so many linting errors. But now our store is defined in that folder, so we can actually create some submodules inside of that folder. Sai is saying, you're forcing me to learn Vue.js. All your projects are in Vue. I did mention earlier I'm going to start doing some stuff in React, but Vue is awesome. I mean, if you have a choice, I would say give it a try. If you work somewhere and they use React, then you kind of don't have a choice, but cool. There is some chatter of like freelancing and stuff happening in the chat. Keep it going. That's totally fine. I'm going to keep coding though. Okay, so we have that. Now I want to create like a submodule. So in my store folder, I'm going to create a file called, I want basically a submodule for login, because that's going to have that one specific action to do the logging in. before I do that, let's double check. So one thing is I am going to have to grab the authenticate method from the store. So that might be tricky. Let's try it. Let's see how this goes. I may need to backtrack, but in store, I'm going to create a new file. Let's just call this login.js. So I'm going to be creating a custom Vuex submodule called login. I'm going to create some actions, and that's just going to be an object that has a login action on it. We're going to get access to the really, we don't need access to anything. So login, it's going to be like that. And we're going to say export default. We're going to export an object that has the actions on it, like this. And right now we'll just say logging in. Actually, I think we may need to pass the user object in or something like that. But one thing is I want this to be a submodule, and I want it to be namespaced. So on this module, I'm going to say namespace is true. And then we need to bring this submodule into the main store. So inside of here, I'm going to import in login. Bring that in. And then now on my store, I can say modules. Or is it submodules? I think it's just modules. Login. Great. Okay. I'm gonna double check the Vue.js, the Vuex docs, just to make sure that I'm doing submodules correctly. Let's take a quick stretch. Yeah, so that's how it works. So you have your modules that each have their own specific state, mutations, actions, and getters, and then you bring those into your main store as modules. Great. Okay, so now that I have this login module, I want to bring in the login action from that module. So here's what I do. We're going to map actions, but we want to bring in, from the login submodule, I want to bring in the login action. And like that. And I believe, is this using logout? It's not. So we actually don't even need to bring logout in here. Should be fine. And basically, I want to take this login method and bring it into that submodule. So I want to basically just have this. But now, an issue is we don't have access to authenticate. We could bring the store in here. I think that's what we'll need to do. And then we actually won't have authenticate inside of here. Ugh, but then we have like a circular dependency because then here's the thing. We need authenticate in here. How do we get it in here? We technically could, or could we, if we import the store, we can fire off a the action that is authenticate. Let's see real quick. So if we look at actions, we get access to the context. Committing gives us the power to call a mutation, but we might actually get access to the store, and then we can dispatch. Let's see. Commit state dispatching actions and components, composing actions. Yes, okay, we get access to dispatch. So let's do this. Dispatch. And then instead of calling this.authenticate, we want to dispatch auth/authenticate. Like that. And what is this complaining about? Expected parentheses around arrow function. All right. And I guess we're not using the results. We don't technically have to do that. All right, let's see what happens. Mainly what we did was we took this login action that was in here and moved it into here. And now that we did that, we actually don't need to bring in authenticate anymore. Let's see if we broke anything. All right, hard refresh. So on the login page, I should be able to log in as part4 with that password, and nothing happens. Let's make sure first that this method is getting called. Oh, we need to pass in the user. Notice, so right here I'm saying this.user. Really, I just want to say user, and I'll also have to update that. And I want to pass in valid. So we're going to need access to valid and user. So now whatever login is called, we need to pass those things in. So when this form is submitted, we'll say login with an object that has valid and user inside of it. And then in our store here, we no longer have access to this .router, so we'll actually just bring in the router itself. So up here we can import router from @/router. Try it. Unknown local action type auth/authenticate, global type login/auth/authenticate. Yeah, so we're dispatch is not a function. What? Let's do this. We get access to the context. I'm gonna log the context to make sure that we actually do get access to that dispatch thing. Let's comment this out. And one of the issues could be, because we're in a submodule, we're trying to call an action from the main store, so there may be a different way to do that. So we do get access to dispatch, and it is a function. If we look at state, there's nothing on it because we don't have any state in this submodule. If we look at root state, it has a lot of different things, because that is like the main module. Okay, so let's Google this real quick. Vuex dispatch global action. Yeah, this is what we want to do. Is there a way to dispatch actions between two namespaced Vuex modules? You just need to specify that you're dispatching from the root context. Okay, so a third parameter is going to be root true. So we get access to dispatch. We're dispatching. Here's why. We're dispatching auth/authenticate with this data here. And we also need to pass in root context is true. Let's see what happens. All right. Part 4. 1, 2, 3. Hey, that was a journey. Thanks for sticking with me. Weird, but okay. So one thing we did was we made this component much more simple by taking this action and defining it in its own submodule. Great. Okay. And if we log out real quick, one thing is if we type in bogus information, at least for right now, we should, yeah, get that log to the console. I guess really we should be like showing an error, but it's fine. Cool. Okay, so login looks good. What about sign up? Again, this has an action. We'll probably move that into the store. Notice that this has not empty rules, so we can import that in from the validators that we defined. So we can do very similarly. Import in the not empty rules here. And then now those are, sorry. Those are defined elsewhere, so we should be good there. Like I mentioned, I do actually like forms to have their own nested component state. And I think I'm gonna leave this here. Here's why. Feathers Vuex gives your components access to the Feathers Vuex instance. I guess technically we probably could do this inside of a submodule, but I don't know if it's going to work exactly the same way. It actually might be fun to do. Should we do it? Yeah, let's try it. Okay, so one thing I think we can do though is inside of the submodule, get access to Feathers Vuex, and then we can actually get the this is basically like a model class for creating things. So do that. Let's try it. Really though, I kind of just want to put it in here. So we should rename this from login. I don't want to name this auth though, because it'll conflict with our auth plugin. Ollie, I'll see you later. Thanks for tuning in. What should we call this? We could call this sign up login, sign up, authenticate, auth utils. I'm gonna think for 1 second. Okay, I'm done thinking. Let's call this local. It's not technically local auth. It's technically just the functions we use to authenticate. A question from Kaizen in the chat: is user a property on Feathers Vuex? Yeah. So one cool thing about Feathers Vuex is in our root store here, any service that you add as a plugin, you get access to that service uppercased and singular inside of your components. So because I have that user service in my Vuex store, feathersvuex.user is now added as a property, and this represents a model class. So basically I can pass in properties, and when I say save, it actually calls the backend to create that entity. And that's built into Feathers Vuex, and as a part of like any one of these services, I have access to like capital board, which is a class to create instances, and I can just say .save. I have access to list, I have access to card, and they all work in a similar way. And yeah, and that's the thing that I'm destructuring. So basically, Feathers Vuex capital user represents the model class for that specific plugin. Okay. Yeah, I was about to rename this thing. Let's call it local auth. Just because it's a way of logging in. Yeah, we're gonna call that local auth. And VS Code is being nice. Do I want to update my imports? Yes, update those imports. However, now instead of calling it login, I'm gonna call this local auth. And so here we'll call it local auth. And then in the login component, when I dispatch, when I map the actions, we're bringing login from local auth. Okay, so hard refresh, login should still work. It does. Now let's attempt to move this action here into the store. Okay. Here we go. This. So we're pulling that out, and we want to be able to say map actions from local auth, and we want to bring in the signup method from that nested Vuex store. So now we're going to have an action called signup that needs brins. We're going to we'll get access to that. We don't really need anything. And then we need access to valid and user again. And instead of this dot valid, we're just using valid. And here we're passing in the user. And let's call this new user. Cool. And now instead of this dot router, we'll just do router dot push. And then here is where I need to use feathers Vuex. So I'm going to import that in right here. If we look at our root store, how did we get access to that? Oh boy. This, I'm pretty sure that is what we need. Let's create a file that exports it. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. Okay, so let's just say, yeah, in this folder, I'm going to create a new file. We're going to call it feathers vuex.js. Let's take a quick stretch. Yeah, we'll call it feathers vuex. And then this thing that we're doing right here, we're going to do inside of that file. So we're going to do this here. And now these two things are done or need to be run in here. And right here where we say view.use feathers vuex, we're going to do that. Well, we'll do it here because we're going to need to import it in. Okay. And actually, let's call this capital. Just for consistency, we'll call this capital feathers vuex. Ezra, hello. Welcome to the stream. From Malaysia. That's awesome. And quick question from Kaizen. Why in some cases is map getters brought in as just an array and in others a module with an array? That really just comes down to submodules. So if you're not using submodules, you can say map getters with just the array and it's just going to grab those things. But if you're using submodules, the first parameter is what is the submodule that those getters are defined in, and then you have the array for defining the name of the things in the getters in that submodule. Hope that helps. Okay, so we define this here, and basically we really just want to export these things from that. So we're actually going to create these things and then export these things to use inside of our store. So basically in our index.js, we're going to say import this from the feathers vuex file, like that. Okay. That's great. So now those things are defined there. But the reason I did this is because I need access to feathers vuex inside of here. So I want to say import feathers vuex from the feathers vuex file. Cool. And then now, instead of this dot, I'm just going to say feathers vuex. All right, lots of stuff happening. Let's see if what I broke or if I broke anything. Map actions is not defined inside of signup. Oh, we need to also import map actions from Vuex. Cannot read property install of undefined function view.use. Let's see. That is probably coming from, so right here, I'm importing those things. Okay, so we're defining feathers Vuex. We're then immediately exporting those three things that got created for us, service, auth, and feathers Vuex. And then inside of here, we're still bringing in feathers client. That's cool. So that's exporting service, auth, and feathers Vuex. And then in here, we're importing this file. Oh, that's why. Here we have to do this. Bear with me. Let's call this actually lowercase because it has like a capitals feathers Vuex in it. So yes, update that import. Okay, so we're exporting an object that has these things, and in when you're importing things in, you can't actually destructure an object directly. So I'll say import feathers Vuex, and then right below that, I'm going to destructure that from feathers Vuex like that. That I believe is what I need to do. And so in local auth, I need to do a similar thing. So we're going to say import feathers Vuex because that's the whole object, and then I'm going to destructure that from feathers Vuex. Hey-o. Everything still works. Are you confused? Because I'm not that confused. There's just a lot going on, and we're moving a lot of different things around. But the thing that we moved, and we need to make sure that still works, is this sign up action that we moved into this local auth submodule. So we moved that there mainly, and the thing that we just worked on was getting access to feathers Vuex, so we can actually get access to the user model. Let's see if that works. So if we go to sign up, okay. Oh, I guess one thing is we need to make sure that we're passing valid and user into the sign up method. So when we call sign up here, we need to pass in valid and user. Oh, Amy, hello. Welcome to the stream. Yeah. Okay, so that works. Let's try to sign up. Display name. Kaizen's going to get an account. Here we go. Kaizen. Display name is Kaizen. Password, that. Let's grab his GitHub profile image. And actually, I'd merged a commit from him. There he is. Can I copy the image address? Is it going to be tiny? It is tiny. What if I just did this? There we go. That's Kaizen. So when I sign up, I'm going to pass in that image there. Sign up. Property or method sign up is not defined on the instance but referenced during render. Ah, okay. One thing I think that we did. Yeah, so sign up with a capital U. Did we call it? Okay, we did call it a capital U. But when we brought it in, we didn't call it a capital U. All right, let's try again. Username, Kaizen. Display name, Kaizen. Not that. We actually want that. Goofy picture in Thailand. That's funny. Sign up. Error in event handler submit. Type error. User is not a constructor. Okay, so the thing that we tried to do didn't actually work. Let's see. If we look in our local auth, this is what it's complaining about. It could be that this is not what I expected it to be, and that everything we just did isn't going to work because we can't get access to that outside of there. Let's look at the Feathers Vuex docs. Models and Instances API. So this is basically what we're working with right now. We're inside of the component, we can say this.$feathers vuex, but what I was trying to do is pull this out into a submodule and still do the same thing. Oh, you can also reference this directly from the view module. That's actually what we need to do. Oh, okay. Wow, okay. I should have looked at the docs. So we actually don't need to bring this in anymore. We can keep it in its separate file. That's still fine. But right here, we're just going to import view. Oh, not that. And then here, we should be able to do that. That's interesting. Let's see if that works. So now on the sign up page, Kaizen. Do I still have? No, I don't. Let's bring in the image one more time. Sign up. User is not a constructor. You sure about that? Here's the thing. Let's just log view and see if it actually has that property on it for us to be able to destructure. Doesn't seem to be working. Import view from view. The past, I don't know, 20 minutes could have been totally for naught, and I'm probably going to revert everything back. Just real quick though, my green screen is behaving weirdly. There we go. I'm no longer sparkling. It's super curious though. So doing this doesn't seem to be working. Not totally sure why. These methods give access to many of the store actions. So if you dispatch something, you're going to get back data, which actually does have something like save on it. Okay. I'm just gonna put this thing back. So everything else we did by like moving Feathers Vuex into a separate module, that's totally fine. But this thing where I pulled sign up into this submodule, I'm gonna undo that. So let's go back over here. Let's Command Z some things. That should be fine now. We should still be able to sign up. There we go. And now we can sign in as Kaizen. Yeah, very cool. Sorry for wasting your time, but I couldn't figure out how to do that. Looking at the Vuex, Feathers Vuex docs, we should be able to just call it from the view instance, but I guess we can't, so we're not gonna do that. All right, let's keep on refactoring. So we did log in, we did sign up. Let's look at boards. So this is one of the first things you see when you do that. Okay. When you first log in. So when you first log in, you can create a board. We'll grab another background. get this one. The oldest living tree in the world. It's almost 5,000 years old. Wow. Cool. And so this page here, this is the boards page. Let's see if we can refactor it a bit. Gregarious knows that my password is 123. It is. Can you hear when I type it? Here we go. Right? ASD. Yeah, it could have been any 3-character sequence all in the same row. Cool. So Leia, let's look at this component, the boards component. This template is a mess. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. So this layout here is the whole layout. Okay. And then we have multiple V-flexes. So we have our first, this is like our list of boards. So this is another all of our projects. Let's grab another image. Very nice. Cool. So this right here is this. And I think I do want to pull this into a separate component. So let's do that. So I'm going to create a component called board list. I am not going to namespace this one just because it's like a very unique name, like board list. Those other components I created, like avatar and navbar, they're not that unique, so I wanted to namespace them just in case they conflicted. So what I want to be able to do is take this here and put it in the board list like this. Okay, so got ourselves a template. We're going to throw that there. Greg is the hacker of the year, dubbed by Kaizen. I don't know. I think in one of the previous episodes I did say what the password was because I've been using that same password for every user that I create. Cool. Okay, so we brought that out. Now we need to bring this board list component into this component. Oh, it's a mess. Okay, we're gonna clean that up though. So right here we'll import the board list from components / board list. Okay. And then right here on components, we're going to bring in the board list. Great. Now it's going to complain. Oh, so one issue, cannot use v4 on a stateful component root element because it renders multiple elements. You might have seen this error before. So notice that on this component, my root level thing has a v4 on it. So although this looks like it's a single root element, it's actually creating multiple elements. So I mean, technically, we do want v layout row wrap. Oh, this is going to get tricky. Because honestly, I kind of want to bring this entire v layout. I want to bring that into a separate component. Because that could be the root level element. What if we did that? What if we brought this into a separate component, then the v4 could stay there, but then we would actually bring this this form into a separate component, so it'd still be cleaned up just a little bit. Let's do that. Let's just do that. My main reason of why I want to do that is I could technically try to put like a V layout inside of this board list, but I don't know how that's going to affect the flow of things, because right now, let's just put this back just to show you what it looks like. Okay, because right now you'll notice that like the form is basically a part of the same layout as the list of boards. And my thought is if I put these in a separate V layout, that board might actually wrap to the next line. I don't want that to happen. Let's just try it real quick. I'm going to go back to what I had, this. And to try and make this thing happy, if I just put this in a V layout, like that, and I'm going to move this whole V flex into there. Notice it jumped over to the right. Now I need to pass down some data. So I believe boards is all that needs to be passed down. So we'll create a script. It'll have some props and get access to boards. And then we need to pass those down here. So we'll say boards is boards. Yes. And this is what I was afraid of. Notice how now, because they're not a part of the same layout, the form gets pushed all the way to the right. Kaizen is asking, can you apply class equals inline block on the component element and form? Possibly. Like putting inline block on this board list. Yeah, because if we look at what actually happens by creating that V layout, yeah, div class equals layout, it gives it a display of flex. If we just get rid of that altogether. Yep. So weird things happen. Here's what I'm gonna do. The only thing I'm gonna put in a new component is the form. That's what I've decided. So let's go back to what we had in here. And as I mentioned, this is mainly to maintain this layout, because I need both the list and the form to be at the same level. They can't be wrapped in layouts, because I want it to appear as if the card is one of the board cards. Okay, and then we'll just delete the boards list. But I am going to create a component for like new board form or something like that. Okay, we're back to where we were. Let's pull this little thingy into a component. So let's create a component. We'll say new board form dot view. I didn't spell that right. View, like that. Cool. And then this needs a template. And this should be okay, because this vflex here is the root level element. So I should just be able to do that. Like that. And then right here, we're going to say new board form. Oh, that's a good point, Greg. So I will, that is one thing that I can do, is this card right here, I can definitely extract that into a board component. That makes sense. And he's also saying the form should be 200 pixels high. Probably. I think right now it's just whatever the size of the form. Well, the form doesn't have a vcard media. That's the thing that has that property. Yeah, it's the image. Okay, so we pulled that out. We are going to have to pass some data down. So it's complaining. First, we need to bring in that component. So import new board form from components / new board form. And then we're going to register this component. Okay. Now we got to fix some things. Property method creating is not defined, so we're going to need to pass that down. So we're going to say creating is creating. But now, actually, should we move that data down? Ooh. Yeah, we're gonna pass everything down, at least for right now. I may actually move the data down, but this thing that we're pulling in from map state, I'm gonna pass that down. Okay, so we're passing down creating. We also need valid. We can also bring in not empty rules, which we just refactored. So import not empty rules from @validators, and then that can just be that. But all of this data should actually exist on the new board form. So I'm going to bring that in. So on the new board form, it has a script, and that is where data is defined. Like that. Okay. Not empty rules is not defined. Now we actually need to import that inside of the other component instead of this component. Okay, so now it's showing up. Property or method creating is not defined on the instance, so we're passing down creating, but we also need to define it as a prop. Okay, no whammies. Now we should pass down this create board function here. And we can pass in the board that needs to be created. That's what we'll do. So we'll pass in the board, we'll create the board, and then this will be new board. And then not this. So this is how we were clearing the form out before. Now we need to clear the form inside of the other component. So let's do this. Well, we actually want to await saving it and make this an async function. We're now going to pass down create board to the form. So we'll say create board is create board. Do this, 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 and now we'll define it as a prop. But now, instead of directly calling create board on submit, we're going to call our own function, so that way we can clear the form when create board is done creating. So let's create our own function called like on create board. And then in our methods, we're going to have one called on create board. And inside of here is where we'll clear out the form. But we're going to do that after awaiting this dot create board, which is coming in as a prop, and we're passing in this dot board. Okay, so this component accepts a Boolean creating to show, I think, like a spinny bar, and also the create board method, which is defined here. And really, we can now do the isValid thing inside of the component itself. So really, we don't want to call this unless, so if this dot valid, do these things. And that will call create board, which was passed down here. it's going to create the board and await it. And then when it's done, we're going to clear out the form. Cool. Dominic is asking, what kind of keyboard are you using? It's nothing special. It is a mechanical keyboard. And I'll make it light up. It's an RGB. Right now I had it on the ripple mode. Yeah, so let me do this. Let's go into a random file like this. Notice when I tap a key, like the RGB ripples. Whoa! So that's fun. But this was like $50 on Amazon. It's not any special brand. I think it is. Yeah, I don't even know what the brand is. But it's nice. It's nice and sturdy and heavy, and it works. Okay. And all right, let's see what happens. Let's see if we broke anything. All right. So can we create a new board? This is a new board, please work. And we'll grab another background image. Ooh, Scotland, very nice. Create. It worked, we didn't get any errors. And we can still go to the page itself. Cool, I like it. So that was a fun exercise. One thing is though, I don't like that we have to be inside of a component to access this model. I may try to figure that out when I'm not streaming, but earlier we tried to like do this inside of a like a module in Vuex and couldn't get that to work. So we don't really want to bring this into the Vuex store, and all of these things we don't really want to bring into the Vuex store. So yeah, this component is good. Yeah, talking about keyboards in the chat. The Razer Chroma. I heard that was a decent one. Is it mechanical? My streaming laptop is actually a Razer. Oh, this one has like RGB. Oh, I guess that's the other thing. My laptop, my streaming laptop, actually has an RGB light up keyboard. It's probably the main reason why I bought that laptop. And I'll show you the laptop that I have. It's the 13-inch, or I think it's the 13-inch Razer Blade. Yeah, this. I have the 2016 or 2017 model, but this is the laptop I use to stream everything through. Greg is asking, can you subclass feathers? Like the feathers Vuex. So I'll show you how these things are hooked up right now. Feathers Vuex is coming from the actual node module itself. And then Feathers client is just actual like standard Feathers code for connecting the client to the backend server. And then this code gives us our instance of Feathers Vuex. So I don't know. And I guess, are you asking subclass it so that way we can create some like custom properties or do some like overriding or something like that? I haven't tried it. It's probably possible. I guess the thing that we might want to subclass is the function that creates it. Not sure. Okay, I'm gonna keep refactoring. Let's now put the board in its own component. So basically this card, we'll just have a board in it. So we'll say board. Let's call this single board. And then we'll pass down the board. And I call it single board because we already have like a component called board that like lists all of the lists and cards on it. So let's create a component called single board. Has a template that does this. And then it has a script with just some simple props that are board. And now we need to bring in that component. So let's do this. And import single board from components / single board. And we'll register it as a component. Cool. Was that happening a minute ago? Because this seems to be a little bit larger than normal. Let's see. I'm curious if by putting it into a separate component, have I thrown off the styles in any way? I just want to see real quick. If it's defined inside of here, do I still have that spacing issue? Let's just see. Oh, not that. And if so, should I spend the time to debug it? Probably not. Okay. That happens even when it's not inside of a component. That's okay with me then. That goes away. That comes back. Briggs is asking, tell us about yourself. I don't know if I want to do it on this stream. I will say, though, if you join the Discord, there is an Ask Me Anything channel. You're more than welcome to literally ask me anything. I've answered recently a few questions like, what is my background? Opinions, different things like that. So if you ask in there, I'll talk about that. I don't know if you have it, but my editor has a shortcut. If you type scaffold, it gives you the component layout. It could be a specific plugin. I'll try it on the next component that I create. No, just had a no. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, Greg just pointed out if the name is longer, the height goes up because the image is still technically 200 pixels, but the name is taking up more space. So let's grab this image, create. Yeah, that's why we could. There we go. if it's all on a single line. Oh, that's nice though. Look at that. Why is that even happening? Cool. Unintended, but it looks great. Okay, so our boards page, this is nice, right? So we pulled that into a separate component. We've pulled that into a separate component. The script code is pretty much going to remain the same. Now let's take a look at board.view. So this is an individual board. This one is also a mess. This is going to be a fun refactor. Okay. Wow, there's so much. Okay. First, we're talking about this page here. Let's create some lists just so we can do things. To do, create another list, doing, another list, done. Thing 1, thing 2, thing 3, thing 4. We can drag these things around like that. Cool. Oh, I'm logged in as Kaizen right now. It's saying that in the activity log. Cool. Okay, but this is the component that we're about to refactor. So let's take a look. We have an error right there. Could bring that into a separate component. We have this vflex, which is this whole side right here. And then we have activities. I guess one thing that I would like to do, let's bring easy refactor right now. Let's put these activities in a separate component called activities. Cool. All right. New component, activities. And Kaizum saying scaffold. Hey, very cool. Yeah, so that works for me too. It's just that sometimes I don't have a script and sometimes I don't have a style, so just do that. So what I wanted to do was take this V layout, which is all of the activities, and put it in that component. So I should be able to say activities, like so. And then our template goes there. And it's doing a v4 on activities by date. So that is what we'll need to pass down. So we'll say activities by date equals activities by date. And we need to bring in that module now, that component, sorry. So let's import activities from @/components /activities. And then we need to register the activities component. And now it's broken. So we have that there. We now need to define it as a prop. Activities by date. Like that. And now property or method markdownify is not defined. And that is because we need to bring in so I defined this function markdownify. Oh, this is so messy. It's so messy. Okay, this, which is a simple little function that renders the markdown. So let's pull that out into here. We're gonna have some methods. Markdownify. And then now I need to bring in marked in here instead. Cool. Okay. That worked. All right. One thing to note though is because I'm calling markdownify inside of a v4, technically this might actually get called multiple times for a single item. If I were to bring this into a component called like activity, because it's a single item, I could have a computed property called markdownify. I think I'm gonna leave it like that for now, but future refactor. Oh God, I just accidentally closed code. Let's bring it back open. And actually, while I'm here, I have 1,000,001 linter errors right now. So let's try to fix all of those automatically. I'm gonna kill the app. npm run lint -- fix. Is there not a lint script? Let me see. There's a lint. Oh, 25 errors found. Okay, that's better than... Actually, let me link the Discord real quick. So there is a survey that I'd like you to fill out. If you go to coding.garden/discord, this actually redirects to a survey with just some simple questions, and then at the end of it, there's a link to the Discord, so I'll post that link in there. Okay. I think that fixed our errors when I did the -- fix, and now some of the other things are like linter rules that I have to update. So if I do an npm run serve, go lint yourself. Well, this is one thing that I guess I haven't gotten configured correctly with VS Code just yet. You'll notice my my Vue.js components don't complain about linter errors inside of the script tag, but like regular JavaScript files do. So I need to figure out why that's happening. Okay, preferred default export. Boards assigned a value but never used. Yeah, I actually, though, I think this is one thing that we can clean up. Like if we look at boards.view, I got this from the documentation. Basically, we were firing off find boards, I think so that it syncs up, but I'm pretty sure we don't actually have to .then it. We can just call it, and then that automatically syncs it up. Let's see. So yeah, that still works. So we can actually just get rid of that. And there's a few other places and other components where we do that as well. Yeah, cool. Oh, wow. Hey, James, welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. Cool. So we were currently looking at board.view, and we just refactored activities into a separate component. So that's great. Let's take a quick stretch. Whew. One thing is we can bring in not empty rules because we did bring that into a validators class or a validator file. Import not empty rules from our validators. Cool. We do have some data here. We might want to bring that into the Vuex store. We probably will bring it in the Vuex store. This we can get rid of, we just realized. So we should be able to just call that. And then same thing here. And then same thing here. These are basically just firing off those actions so that our real-time syncing with the store and with the backend starts up, but we don't have to do anything with the result because we're already looking at the synced data. So that still works, which is great. So we've got that. We do have create list. We probably want to move like this into like a create list form component. We'll probably do that. Create activity. Honestly, oh, we do want that to be here because whenever we create lists or we create cards, we need to call create activity. The dragging and dropping, I think we are going to pull some stuff into the Vuex store. Got some computed properties. Yeah, okay. First thing, let's look at this. So this vflex wraps this vlayout, which wraps another vflex, and this vflex, which wraps another vlayout. I probably have something in here is redundant. It does. I mean, we do have lots of nested layouts in here though, so maybe not. And then this is all of the lists. And this is the create list stuff. Let's create a new component called a new list form. Yeah, let's do that. Because we have like the new board form, we're going to create a new list form. Scaffold. Cool. And then we'll grab this entire vflex. And right here, I should be able to say a new list form, like that. And then our template is going to go here. James is asking if this is deployed somewhere. This is not deployed yet. Nope, I have not deployed it. Maybe I think I'll I'll do that at the end of this episode. Why not? It's definitely it's usable right now, but you can't add collaborators. I think next episode. Basically, this series is going to be going on forever for like 20 seasons. But next episode, I'm going to make it so that you can actually add collaborators. We're just doing a ton of refactoring that we probably should have been doing along the way, but we didn't last time. Or last few times. So now we have our new list form. Let's bring that in. Components / new list form. And then we need to bring new list form as a component. So that gets brought in. And it's complaining about some things. First, creating list is not defined. So we do have this create list function. I think we'll just pass it down, and we'll pass down creating list. Yeah, it'll be very similar to how we did the new board form earlier. So, nope, that. Creating list is creating list. Now in here, we need that as a prop. Okay. Refresh. Valid list. Okay, so this I think we actually want to bring in. So just like when we created the new board form, we had the actual data associated with that thing inside of the component itself. So I think we want to do that. So we'll say like, actually we're going to bring this. Valid list, list, and not empty rules are all going to go inside of the new list form. So this is going to have some data with those things on it. Not empty rules, we now actually need to bring into that component instead of this component. Arif is asking, are you going to add all of the features or some of them? This episode, I am just cleaning things up. So right now I'm refactoring. I think before I end this episode, I want to make sure that I have no linter errors. I did in the episode title say refactoring in style. I actually meant CSS style, but I'm going to go ahead and backtrack and mean code style instead because there's a lot that I need to do. So yeah, this episode is all about cleanup. Tune in for the next one for more features and such. But really, I mean, really, this is a good exercise in like creating new components, moving things into the Vuex store, that kind of stuff. All right. Oh, no errors. Cool. So I know there are no errors, but I do know that we need to actually pass down the create list function. This needs to be passed down, and it needs to accept the list that's being created. Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to pass down, create list cool. And then just like we did with that other form component, when this is submitted, we're going to call like on create list so that we can like do the validation inside of here and then pass in the list itself to be created. Make sure that we define our prop called create list, and then we'll need a method called on create list. And basically we're going to say if this dot valid list, then we will say await this dot create list with this dot list. And then when that finishes, and we need to make sure this is async so we can use await. When that finishes, we're going to clear out the list form, which is this right here. So we're going to move that out like that. Okay, and so now on this side, create list will actually accept the list that we're going to create. We don't have to check if it's valid because we're doing that inside of the component. And then here we're going to pass in list, and here we'll say list, and then this is going to be the new list that gets created, and then we're going to save that. Cool. And then that should work. I mean, I think technically we could await create activity because activity.save is actually something that returns a promise. And then if we await this, okay. So now we can create a list, hopefully. Let's see what happens. More stuff's here. It works. And then we still have our activity things. We can still create cards on it. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. So that was great. We now have that in a separate component. There's an extra space there. There shouldn't be. There's a lot going on here. A lot. Yeah, and Kaizen mentioned he was trying to do some refactoring. Trying to see where to move things into the store was a struggle. To me, I don't know. I think because Feathers Vuex offers such an easy way to do things from inside of a component, like accessing the model and like instantly creating it, it's almost like less reason to pull it into the Vuex store. Like what we figured out earlier in this episode. Are these episodes? Am I calling these episodes now? I don't know. But what we figured out earlier was to get access to the list or like any model wasn't necessarily working inside of the Vuex store. So I'm wary of attempting to pull in functions like these into the Vuex store. So I'm gonna leave those there. I think we probably can do the dragging and the dropping inside of Vuex. There's just so much in this component. It's pulling in so many different things from all these different places in the store. Cool. I think that's the last refactor that I'll do on. Well, no, I do want to pull out like card components and list component. Let's do that. That should be easy enough. So if we look at this is creating each individual list. So this right here, we can create an individual list component. So let's call this single list, and we'll pass down list to it. Then we'll create a component, single list.view. Go. Okay. Does this. Cool. And right now it has some props that are list. All right, there's some other things that are missing. First, unknown element type. We do need to bring it into board.view. Single list. And then we'll pull in single list to our components. Okay, there's some other things missing. Question from Kaizen, basically about async await. With await, does the interpreter stop executing until the promise or data or whatever returns? So clearly only happens if and when. So clearing only happens if and when await happens. Yeah. The thing is, it doesn't necessarily stop execution. It pauses execution, and really. The main way to think about async await is it's literally just promises. So when you see an await, such as like when we're creating the list here, so like when you see await this dot save, essentially what this is doing is it's taking the code that's below it and putting it inside of a dot then, like that. So by using await, it syntactically looks sequential, but under the hood, this is actually what's happening. So inside of our nested component, when we have our code, so this is going to be in the new list form right here, because we have that await there, it's literally waiting for this to finish before it clears out the form. So if we didn't use await, it would just be dot then. And then inside of there is where we actually clear the list. So it's literally waiting for the creation to happen. When that's done, it clears out the list. And await is just syntactic sugar. I mean, it's a lot nicer. Less parentheses and curly braces. Okay, so that's there. What were we working on? Oh yeah, we were creating a single list. Let's see what it's complaining about. Okay, so now the dragging and the dropping is not there. So we do need to pass in a few things. We need access to dropping list. So let's add that as a prop. We need access to set dropping list. We need access to cards by list ID. We need access to start dragging card. We need access to drop card. It's a lot of things in here. Cool. And then this is actually where it's using create card now. Create card needs to be brought into this subcomponent, not the parent level component. And then we also need access to user. So many things we need access to. Let's clean this up real quick. Like that. Then we also need access to create activity, and we need access to user. Okay, so all of these things we need to pass down whenever we're creating the single list component. Here. here's what I'm going to do. Okay, let's see if I can do this all in one fell swoop. All right. Go here. Copy that. Put a colon. Put that there. Set it equal to that. Go here, make this a double quote, go to the end of the line, make that a double quote, and then get rid of that. I think I did it. Did I? User, and then this is going to be user.user. Okay, let's double check that I brought everything in right. Okay. We got the list. We got set dropping list. We've got dropping list. We've got cards by list ID, start dragging card, drop card, create activity, and user. Can't resolve create card, so this actually just needs to be components. Oh, actually, really, create card kind of needs to go, create card needs to go in the components folder. I'm going to move it. Yeah, put that in there. And then that makes sense. But one thing I just saw in create card is not empty rules is in there as well, and we actually want to bring this in from the validator. So import not empty rules from @/validators that hard refresh. Unknown custom element create card. Did you register the component correctly? Probably not. We didn't. So here we need to say components is create card. Okay. And can we still create cards? Hello world. Still works. Can we still move cards? Yes, we can. Whoa. 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 Okay, cool. That's great. I'm glad we did this. Now if we look back at board, that's nice. The template is a little bit more more manageable. Cool. But I think one last thing that I want to do is we'll move the dragging and dropping things into a submodule in the Vuex store. I think. And then drop card will stay in here because it is doing things with like methods inside of here. Okay, that's the last thing we'll do. So I want a new submodule in my Vuex store for the board. So let's call it I'm wary of calling it board because we do have the Vuex Feathers plugin called boards. I'm gonna call it board. Singular board. Hopefully we don't mistake it. And this needs some state. The state here is going to have dropping list and dragging card. Both of those initialized to null. Okay. And then anywhere we accessed dropping list, or anywhere we change it, we actually need to call like a mutation. That's fine though. Okay, so we have our state. We'll do module. We'll say export default object that has the state inside of it. And then this board submodule will be namespaced. And we're going to pull this into the main store. So if we look in index.js, we need to bring in also board. And right here, we have board. And now we want to bring in dropping list and dragging card from this submodule because it's no longer inside of this component. So for that, we're going to use map state. So on our computed, we're now going to map state from board, and the things that we want are those two properties, dropping list and dragging card. Like that. Okay. Now, we need a mutation that sets the dropping list and a mutation that sets the dragging card. So let's create some mutations. We'll say set dropping list. This takes in the state and the dropping list that you're going to be setting it as. And we'll just say state.dropping list equals dropping list. Cool. And we also need set dragging card. This takes in the dragging card. And state.dragging card equals that given dragging card. And these need to be commas. Arrow function should not return an assignment. The last thing we do tonight will be to fix all these linting errors. For now, I'm going to leave that. So we need to export those mutations. And now I need to bring those mutations into this component. So under our methods, we need to also bring in not map actions. We're going to map mutations from board. And the mutations that we want are set, what are they? Set dropping list and set dragging card. Cool. Now, anywhere in our component where we're setting these things to null, we need to actually call the mutations instead. And let me make sure I am bringing in map mutations from Vuex, so that's a good thing. Okay, so anywhere where we say this dot dropping list equals some value, this is actually where we need to call our mutation. So instead of setting it directly, we're going to say this dot set dropping list and pass in the list. Cool. Are we doing that anywhere else? Setting it to null. So here we'll say this dot set dropping list and pass in null. Are we doing it anywhere else? No, we're not. And now we need to do the same thing with dragging card. So anywhere where we are assigning to dragging card, we actually need to say set dragging card to be null. And this dot dragging card equals. So here we also need to say this dot set dragging card. Whoa. To be that given card. And I think that's it. Let's see if we broke anything. Okay, so yeah, stuff's happening. Stuff's going wrong. Maximum call stack size exceeded. I've got some nested calls in there. I don't think it's recursive. Let me make sure. Oh, because I named it the exact same thing. Yep, that'll do it. Later, Kaizen. Have a good day. Good day at work. Okay. Obviously, maximum call stack size is exceeded because I'm calling the same function over and over again. Let's do this. Because this function set dropping list, I believe, is being called inside of single list, right? Drag over. Because that's the case, let's do this. Let's call this on. What? One thing I could do is bring the event into the store as well and like prevent the default action inside of there. Kind of don't want to do that, so let's just rename this to on set dropping list. And now we'll actually pass down on set dropping list. So now we're not calling the same function over and over again, because on set dropping list is defined inside of the component, and then set dropping list is defined in the Vuex store as a mutation. Okay. So can we drag and drop a card? Moment of truth. Yes, we can. Huh? Great. Cool. I think that's mainly, look at all these new components we created today. That was a fun time. Question from Greg: would it be super crappy in line? Because the other way to do this, I think this is what you're talking about, is basically right here. We could call the store directly. The main thing is I don't really like having things like event.preventDefault inside of a mutation. That's something that I would want to have like inside of an action, and then I would have to create an action that calls a mutation. I don't know. Million and one ways to do it. I think I'm okay with this for now. This component still is extremely messy. Could probably be cleaned up more, but I think that's enough refactoring for today. The last thing I'm going to do is just fix all of those linter errors and then deploy. So it's not the last thing I'm going to do. I always say it's the last thing I'm going to do. But let's fix some linter errors. For one thing, I am actually going to update my ESLint config so that right here, some of those errors that we're getting, I just want to completely turn off. So let's look at my error. Preferred default export. I'm going to turn that off because sometimes I want to create something that doesn't export by default. It exports like an individual item. Mainly because in the future, I might actually add more things to that, and I don't want that to be the default export when I add more things to it in the future. So I'm going to turn this rule off. So grab the rule name. The way I created this app was using the VueCLI 3, and I told it to put my ESLint config inside of my package.json. So to turn these rules off, inside my package.json, I can add a rules section and say, this rule should be off. So set it to 0. Oh, sorry, no trailing com, or in JSON. Cool. And then if I kill and restart the server, it should pick up those new rules and won't complain about that anymore. Cool. Missing trailing comma. So let's try to fix that. One thing we can do is npm run lint with -- fix. That'll do all the simple things like missing semicolons or trailing commas and stuff like that. User is already declared in the upper scope. I'm going to turn off no shadow because that's something I like to do sometimes. So let's turn that off. And really, these are rules that are defined either in Vue Essential or in Airbnb. And for my purposes, I don't agree with those rules, so I'm going to turn them off. And it's my app, so I can do whatever I want. VM is defined but never used. That's a good error to get, so let's actually fix that. So in login.vue, in our data, we literally never use the VM, so let's get rid of that. Missing file extension view for components single board. No. I don't want to put the extension because the Webpack loader knows what to do with that. So I'm gonna turn that off. Okay, so in my package JSON, import extensions off. Assignment to property of function parameter. I'm also going to turn this off. So I'll show you where I do this. So in board.view line 174, typically, when you're using a reduce like this, you have to assign to the parameter. So in this case, it makes sense to reassign the parameter. So I'm just going to turn that off. And pretty much all other cases where I assign to the incoming parameter, I meant to do that. So I don't care about that rule. Dangling ID, no underscore dangle. I'm going to turn that off too. Mainly because that underscore ID, so let's see, this is in boards line 124. This is coming from the database. So we're using MongoDB on the back end, and it literally the ID property is underscore ID. So I'm going to turn off the linter rule that says we can't have dangling underscores because we do. Activities is assigned a value but never used. That's a good error to get. Let's fix that. So on line 87 in board.view. Yeah, this is similar to what we were doing earlier. Like, we don't need to do that. We can just call it and it automatically starts syncing up for us. Function should not return an assignment. Yes, it should. This is one that I'm going to turn off. So I'll show this in board.js. Actually, do you see what I just did there? I totally forgot I could do this. If you're using iTerm on a Mac, if you command click on the name of a file, it will literally take you to the editor and highlight that line, which is pretty cool. This is talking about no return assignment. Because the only thing we're doing inside of this simple arrow function is assigning a value, and because it's an arrow function, it actually returns this, but I want to write my function that way. So I'm going to turn off this rule, no return assignment, because that's okay with me. All right. Line exceeds maximum line length. I think that's about where we're at. Maximum line length. Let's fix it. So on single list.view line 8. Well, apparently it doesn't know how to look at view files, but it can look at JavaScript files. Okay, but single list.view line 8. This one is way too long. That's easy enough to fix. We'll just put all the attributes on a separate line. This. Single list line 2 exceeds maximum line width. So let's also fix that. That should be okay. Actually, I do like to clean up the, like when you're binding like a class to an object or something like that, I do like to sometimes write it like that so it does look like an object. Map state is defined but never used. That's a good error to get. So in create card, I'm bringing in map state but not at all using it. So let's get rid of it. All right, I think we're on our last error. Vion directive requires that the attribute value or verb modifiers. Yeah, so this is in on the activities on the list tile. Let me start up the front end so we can see what this is complaining about. And typically the reason we do like an empty at click is just so the cursor, notice how the cursor becomes the pointer clicker, and when you hover, it gets a specific style. But I believe that's because of the at click. So if we remove that empty at click, we're going to actually get rid of that functionality. Let's see what happens. So in activities, we'll just remove the at click. No linter errors. We finally made it there. But if we do a hard refresh, yeah, now we don't get that nice like hover and highlight. So let's keep it and we'll turn that rule off. View valid v on. Yeah. Might be a better way to do this. I don't exactly know. Like the main thing is, for one, it's applying the browser class of being a link, so you get the cursor, and then Viewtify specifically has special classes applied to like on hover if it is something that has a link. So this having an empty at click actually comes from the Viewtify docs. So I'm just going to turn that one off, and then we'll be done. We'll be totally linter error free. Wait. Oh, we need to kill this before we start it back up. Okay. Very good. Here's what I'll do. I will commit everything, push it up to GitHub, and then do a quick deploy before I end the stream. So let's do this. Everything we've done was inside of the client. We did a lot there. Sorry. Let's add everything. Sparkles. We need the cop emoji. We also need like the bathtub emoji or the shower emoji because we clean things up. Clean up, refactor, fix linter errors. So this was not an exciting episode, but our code base is a little bit cleaner now than it was before. Oh, I merged some things on the remote, so let me pull those down. There's a conflict. Let's fix it. So in login.view. So I want to keep current change here. I want, why does this have a conflict? I think ultimately we figured that out. I do want to keep the current change there. Okay, cool. And then why is activities red? There we go. Well, no, it's still complaining about that. Even though we turned that linter roll off. That's okay, though. Okay, let me just start this back up to make sure that that merge didn't kill anything. But there is... Need to go to the client. You need to make sure that we can still log in. Okay, let's log out. Oh, man. Something broke. We may need to fix that. This is specifically the login page. So if I try to log in as Kaizen, that still works. We can still go here. This one actually had things on it. Let's see what this error is because I kind of want to fix that. So when we click log out, in the board component, cannot read property user of null. That's an issue. So in the board component, or is this the, yeah, right about here, we're passing down user.user. So here's what we need to say. If user is a thing, then pass down user.user. Otherwise, pass down empty object. Are we accessing user.user anywhere? Yeah, I think that's mainly it because we're like passing it down as a prop. So if I log back in, that's great. And if I log out, error is gone. Cool. All right, let me commit that merge. Oh god. Oh. Circle, not circle, arrows, overlapping arrows, because we merged. That one. Twisted right arrows. Cool. Okay, so all of the latest code is up on GitHub. If you do want to check that out. See all of the wonderful changes that I made today. Let's deploy this thing. So first I'll deploy the backend. This might be a little bit tricky though because there are these highlights should be going away. Let me do this. Close code. Open code up. Okay, all that highlighting and stuff is gone. So I want to deploy the backend. I just didn't think about. It's going to take some work. So first we need a database. So I'll probably create a database on something like MongoLab. Then we'll need to. We're just doing local auth, so that should be easy enough. Let me see. I'm going to hide my screen real quick because I need to look inside of this config, because that has environment variables that I'm going to need to push up. I'm going to see if there's anything in there. There's the fish cam, and let me hide that. Cool. Actually, I'll do this. Dash. Fishy, fishy. Come out. Okay. Right back. Yeah. Our MongoDB connection and then our authentication secret are going to need to be environment variables. Okay, let me update some things. And actually, none of this stuff is secret, so you can see my screen again. So in the config, you'll notice there's the authentication secret. This is the secret that it uses to sign the token. We're going to generate a new random one, and that's what we'll use as an environment variable. And then the other thing is the connection to MongoDB. That needs to be an environment variable, so when we deploy, it knows what database to look at. Believe, though, I do want to create a local.env that has those things defined inside of it, so it still works locally. So here's what I'll do. Inside the server folder, new file, call it .env. Here I'm going to create an auth secret, and we're going to set that equal to this value. And then inside of here, I can just say auth secret, and it knows to look at my environment variables. So do that. And then Mongo DB URI. This is going to be where we put our database. So this I'm going to grab from Mongo DB URI. Like that. Cool. And now that we have the .env, I do need to bring in the .env package. So I don't have that. So that way it still works locally. So in the server folder, I'm going to install .env. Two vulnerabilities, one moderate. One of the issues with these, though, is a lot of times it's an issue with a package that this package has a dependency on. So technically there's not really much you could do about it because it's actually on a dependency. I don't know. Not gonna worry about that right now. So I have that. So just in like my app.view, app.js, we're going to pull in our .env. So just like right about here, we're gonna say require.env and config it. And we do need to make sure that our .env is in our git ignore. It's not, so let's add it. Okay. Apparently we changed a lot of things. Okay, so let's go ahead and add and commit this. I believe that's good, yeah. Rocket. Prepare for deploy. Okay, I'm gonna deploy to Heroku. So I believe I'm already logged in here. Let's create a new app. We'll call this CG Trello clone. Create the app. And one thing I'll do is in resources, I'm going to add a Mongo database. It's pretty easy to do that. Click it. I want the free sandbox version provision. Cool, so I've got myself a MongoDB now, and automatically when I create that, in my settings, it creates MongoDB URI. And one thing I just noticed is that there is no underscore in, actually I can edit it, let's do this. Can I change the name? No, I can't. You can see my database username and password right now, so I am definitely gonna have to change this, but I'm gonna add MongoDB URI. And that's mainly because that's the way I called it in my config. If we look at our config again, I believe I did. Yeah, I put an underscore there accidentally. Cool, that's there. And then I also need an auth secret, and that just needs to be like some random value, like that. Add. Cool. Now I should be able to deploy here. So I'm going to grab this Heroku get URL. First, yeah, no changes. I think here's an issue though. I'm actually in a subdirectory, which is maybe why I don't want to deploy to Heroku. Because here's the thing. When you deploy to Heroku, typically it wants your package JSON to be at the root of your repository. But right now, my server is actually nested inside of this server folder. Okay, I've changed my mind. I'm going to deploy to now.sh instead. Because it lets you deploy from like a nested folder. Okay, so if I deploy to now, we do need to change some things. In my config, I did have the host here. Let's do this. Change it to now. Cool. And we'll also make our audience be that. Cool. And in the server folder, I need to create those environment variables on now. So now has a command called now secrets. And I want to add one. So now secrets add. I'm going to call this Trello DB. And the value is going to be that Mongo lab connection string. This is one thing as well. Like you could, instead of signing up directly on Mongo Lab, you could just create an empty app on Heroku and then use that Mongo Lab connection string. It works. There are a few people watching. They could have hacked my database by now. Don't know if they will. Greg is asking, have I tried Netlify? I haven't, but I have heard of it. When I went to ViewConf back in March, and they Netlify, they had a presence at the conference. It seemed pretty interesting. Build, deploy, and manage modern web projects. Deploy your site in seconds. Oh. Okay, let's do it. Let's see how easy it is. I guess I would still technically have to set up my environment variables. New site from GitHub provider. Public and private repository access. Okay, why not? Just a second. Okay, I'm back. Wait, not that. This. All right, which repo do I want? Oh, it's on Coding Garden. I think I need to fork it. Okay, let's fork it because it's not under my main account. Yeah, I need to fork it so it's under my main account. Fork it. Put it there. And actually, does Netlify have Mongo databases? We'll see. I know I totally just got sidetracked by like trying to use this instead, but that's fine. Branch to deploy the master branch. There is no build command, and the directory that we're going to be publishing is... Oh. The directory we're going to be publishing, it's not a static site though. Advanced. Define environment variables for more control and flexibility. The build command to run before deploying. Actually, let me make sure that Netlify will actually work with like a what you call it, a node.js app. Because what I'm reading right now seems more of like a static site. My static site features. I think this is only for static sites. It is. That's fine. Maybe I'll deploy the front end there. That'd be good. Actually, that's what I'll do. So let's just deploy the front end there. It's gonna break right now because I need to actually update it. But apparently, whenever you push to GitHub, it'll redeploy. So that's good. So master branch, build command, cd client, and npm run build. And then the publish directory is going to be client/dist, I believe. Go. I guess if you used it with Nux, then technically it could be used as a backend. Site deploy in progress. Cool. Let's get this backend deployed to now though. So I just created my DB secret. Now we're gonna do a now secrets add Trello auth secret, and the value is just going to be that. Cool. And let me go ahead and update now. Site deploy failed. We'll work on the front end in a second. Okay. So we have our secrets for now. Now I actually want to deploy the server. So I need to do now-e. Let's do a now help because you can deploy with environment variables. Yeah, so I want to do now-e. I want MongoDB URI to be equal to Trello, well, at Trello-db. And I want auth secret to be equal to at Trello-auth/secret. Go. Oh, this needs to be a -e. So go. And let's figure out why this failed. View CLI service not found. Oh, we also need to do an npm install. Okay. Let's fix the site settings. CD client and npm install and npm run build. Okay. Trigger deploy. Clear the build cache. Go. Okay, the backend got deployed. CG Trello clone is what we're going to alias it. Cool. So our backend is on the interwebs, and if we do something like try to go to /users, we get unauthorized. That is a good sign. And Netlify seems like it might be working this time. So it is building our app. Cool. One thing we'll need to do though is update the connection to the backend. So on the client, in Feather's client, this is where it connects to the client. Let's just have some logic. So we'll say like API URL initially is that. And we'll say if window.location.hostname is, let's take a quick stretch. So if the host name is localhost, then API URL, let's make this a let, will equal this. And now we'll connect to API URL. That should do it. I think that's the only place where we're accessing localhost 3030 on the client side. Let's just make sure. We do a find in files. Can I search a specific directory path? Files to include client/source. Go. Yeah, it's only in one place. So I'll commit this, but this should be the only place where we're accessing the backend. So I think deploying to Netlify worked. Cool. So let's push up this latest code, and then it will now be pointed at the backend. I guess we changed some things. So we're pushing that up there. I'm going to need to push to my fork as well. And I guess the cool thing about Netlify is the moment I push to master, it should trigger a rebuild. Building. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna go say hi to Dash. Fishy, fishy. Hey Dash, are you sleeping? What's up, buddy? Hey. 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 How's it going? Dash is a funny fish. All right, it's building. Site is live. All right, do we actually get a new deployed URL? Or is it the same? Yeah, it's the same URL. All right, DevTools. No whammies, no whammies. Let's try to sign up. Username, W3CJ. Display name, CJ. Password. Let me show my full screen. Try and hack me, Greg. I really just want I want this copy image address. There, sign up. Oh man. I think it worked. I think it worked. Ah, we're on the internet. Okay, new board. Hello world. Background. This. Create. Okay. You notice now that we're on the interwebs, the spinny bars actually spin because it's communicating with the backend. List to do, doing, and done. And this would actually be a good demonstration for like the real-time nature of this. So we're on the internet. If I look at this in two different tabs, I should be able to create a card like do the thing, and it pops up on the right-hand side automatically because it's talking to the same Feathers backend and it has that real-time syncing happening. So I can create cards. I can drag them around. Great. Yeah, Greg, you could probably hack me. Please don't, but you could. Okay. This is great. We're on the internet. I'll throw these links in the description so you can sign up and create your own Trello clones and log into my account because you know what the password is now. That's great. I accidentally closed Chrome, but I think that's it. That's all I wanted to do this episode. I didn't get to work on actual aesthetic styling, but I did clean up the code quite a bit. We created all of these different components. We created submodules in the store and extracted some of our logic into those. We fixed all of our linting errors. I am much happier with this code base now and feel much more comfortable adding more features onto this, which I'll do in future episodes. Cool. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow afternoon will be another Newbie Tuesdays. If you visit my YouTube channel, you can see the upcoming streams. Tomorrow is going to be higher order functions. We're going to be talking about reduce. This should be the last episode in the higher order function series that we've been doing. I'll be doing katas on Wednesday, morning tea on Thursday. I'm going to be doing part 2 of Build a Full Stack Forum on Thursday evening. So this is the same app that I worked on during the 8-hour live stream. I'm going to continue that app as well. I have all these apps that I'm working on that aren't finished yet. So I'm going to be in the upcoming... Did you just change my password, Greg? Is that what you're saying? I don't know. But in upcoming live streams, I'm going to be trying to finish out some of the apps that I started in the past. And then on Sunday, I actually should be in New York City for the morning stream that I do from there. So that'll be fun. I think hopefully I'll have a place to stream. I'll talk about it more closer like when we get there. But I think I actually am going to have a place to stream when I get there. So that'll happen. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Check the description for links to the code, links to the deployed apps. This was fun. Stay tuned for part 5. Here is Dash. And Greg, you're very welcome. And Dash is hanging out. Look at him. All right. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. And wait, I just realized in some countries this might be considered offensive. I mean, this is peace. Peace and love. Stay awesome. Talk to you later.